Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's lecture. So till last lecture we covered till clause 8 of first schedule and of part 1. We discussed in detail clause by clause. We discussed in detail some of the guidelines like advertisement guidelines. Today what we are going to do is we are going to cover rest of the clauses of part 1 and the first schedule and part 2 and then we'll move to the second schedule. Okay, so before starting for the today's lecture, guys, one thing. I hope you have read the rest of the clauses. Also, you have read the previous clauses. Reason because it is necessary to read before you come for the lecture. It will enhance your understanding. It will enhance the understanding that we are discussing over here, what things are being discussed, some of the critical areas. So it will help you a lot. So I'll suggest please read before start of the lecture a day before or something like that, so that when we are discussing, you should be aware. Okay, this is a topic we are discussing. There are so many references, or like say a reference for the company sections, reference for something else, reference for a standard on auditing. So you will be able to correlate and you will be able to understand in more depth. Okay, now any of you guys, if you have any of the question for the past lecture or for any of the topic which was discussed or which has been already discussed, please ask. You can ask. I will reply as in when I receive the questions. There is no issue in that. Okay, so that's it, and let's start for the today's lecture. Okay, and yeah, I'll so till last lecture I'll just provide a recap. What we did is till last lecture we discussed till clause 8. Okay, remember, we discussed that accepting as a position of an auditor which was held by another CA or certified auditor, they need to communicate. If we without communication, if that person accept as an auditor, then it is a guilty for professional misconduct. Remember anything like that? Okay, now for today, what we are going to do is start with another clause, that is clause 9. It's on the same line. Yeah. Okay, clause 9. What clause 9 talks about? Clause 9 talks about a member in practice. If a member in practice, okay, who is being appointed as an auditor of a company, who is being appointed as an auditor of company. Now, if that particular member in practice, okay, does not verify the compliance with the provisions of the Companies Act. When I say compliance with the provision of Companies Act is section 139 and section 140. Now, you might be wondering what are these sections? So these sections are like section 139 is the procedure for appointment of an auditor, and section 140 related to the appointment in case of a removal of an auditor. So yeah, section 139 and section 140 of the Companies Act. So when auditor is being appointed, he needs to verify whether the compliance with the section 139 and 140 has been done with or not. So a member in practice, remember part 1 deal with the member in practice. Okay, so how it goes is like member in practice shall deem to be of professional misconduct if he accepts an appointment, if he accepts the appointment as an auditor of company. Okay, if he accepts the audit as an appointment as an auditor of the company without verifying or without checking compliance to section 139 and section 140 of Companies Act. Okay, section 139 and section 140 of the Companies Act. So each and every auditor is required to check for the compliance. Okay, now Again, I'll write it down for your reference. Section 139. You need to read section 139 in detail to understand what we are, discussing over here, the procedure for the company for the appointment of an auditor. You can say procedure followed by company for appointment of an auditor. And when I say section 140, you can say section 140 lays down the procedure for appointment of auditor other than the retiring auditor and for the removal of existing auditor. So there are two things: procedure, again, procedure followed for appointment of auditor, but other than retiring auditor. Also, it talks about removal of existing, sorry, just, yeah, removal of existing auditor. Okay, I hope it is clear. Yeah. So now, so these were the section 139-40 a brief. Okay. Now, under which cases a auditor is required to verify compliance? Now, when I say which cases means, okay. So, for example, is it he required to comply when he is appointed for the first time? Is it he required to comply when he is appointed, instead of a joint auditor? When is it he required to comply when there was a person who was appointed, but he was, because of some other reason, he did not continue the appointment, or he actually resigned from the position. So in which scenarios he need to do it? Okay, so when are these required to comply is first time appointment. Okay, when the auditor is appointed for the first time, he is required to comply. Okay, so like, okay, it may happen that, okay, there is no compliance with some of the provision of section 140. That is fine. It's not necessary that each and every provision of the section 139 and 140 should apply, but whatever provisions are getting applied, you need to check the compliance for the same. Okay, second, when existing auditor is not reappointed. For example, I was the existing auditor, they did not reappoint me. Very bad. So if they then appoint you instead of me, then you need to check for the compliance. Okay, all the things are appropriate as per the provision. Then, now let's say there were two joint auditors. Okay, me and my friend, they were both joint auditors of a company. I'll give you with an example. Mr. X and Mr. Y were joint auditors of company ABC Limited. Now, for the first year, they were joint auditors. That was going good. But Mr. Y had some relationship, and his quality of work was good compared to Mr. X, and it was very difficult to coordinate with two auditors. And there were so many reasons. We will not go into the reasons, but let's say there are some reasons. And in the subsequent year, they only appointed Mr. Y. Mr. Y. They only appointed Mr. Y in next year. So now you tell me whether Mr. Y is required to perform this compliance with these provisions. So whether Mr. Y is required to perform the compliance with these provisions, he is reappointed. That's it. Come on, guys. Whether he's required to perform the, he's required to check the compliance or not. Come on, guys. So you need to think about, okay, what are the provisions of 139, 140, whether they are, required to be complied with when there is a person who is being appointed other than the person who was not appointed. Good morning, guys. Okay, yeah. So, yes. So in this case also, if two or more joint auditors were there and any of them was not reappointed, was not reappointed, then also we are required to check. This will be, applicable. He needs to require to check the compliance with the provision of 139 and 140. You can say change in joint auditors. Let's say earlier it was Mr. X and Y, now it is Mr. A and Y. So if there's a change in joint auditors, also then it is also required. So these are certain scenarios, okay, where it is necessary to check with the compliance. Okay. Now, if you say the procedure, like how we will check, what we will check in 139, like how we will check there is a compliance or not. So, okay, for the purpose, we understood when we are required to check for the compliance. But how we will verify, what we will do that, okay, there is a compliance or not. In real life, how will you verify? So, you need to understand, okay, what is the procedure that section 139 and 140 requires, giving a special notice. So whether a special notice was given or not, then a notice has been sent to the members or not, based on the timeline which is given, like not earlier than 3 months but less than at least 14 days before of the meeting. Then you can say, okay, notice was given to the retiring auditor or not, whether there was a chance given to the retiring auditor for the representation, and whether the representation was also provided to the members or not. So you need to verify based on the provisions, okay, what are the provisions, and on the basis of that you need to check the documentation. Okay, once you verify once you understand the provision, you need to check the documentation, and once you check the documentation, then only you can comment whether there was a compliance or not. Okay, any doubt till now? Any doubt in this case? Okay. Then there are certain guidelines issued by the institute for in case of a removal of auditor. Okay, we'll understand these guidelines. Okay, now why these guidelines are there? These guidelines are there for the, you can say unjust removal of the auditors when it was not required, when the auditors were correct on their part, but they were removed because of XYZ reason. So because of the unjust removals of the auditor, these guidelines were brought. But yeah, these guidelines says that, okay, now that if there is a removal of auditor, then if there is a removal of auditor, or I'll put in another terms, not removal here, but let's say an auditor has resigned. Okay, resignation of auditor, or he can say, like, he was not willing to reappoint himself, not willing to get reappointed. Don't, like, for example, don't appoint me. I'm very much frustrated with this audit, or I cannot cope up with this, or like XYZ reason. Okay, there is some issue, the management does not agree, XYZ reason. Not going into the reason, but he says that I'm not willing to take this assignment going forward. And if he says that okay, I'm not willing to take this assignment going forward, then there are guidelines that are required to be followed. Okay, number one, what he needs to do. Okay, when this kind of scenario happens, then the auditor is required to write a communication, or send a communication, is required to communicate in writing, basically, with the board of directors, okay, of the company, and he needs to give reason. What he needs to do is give reasons why I'm not willing to get reappointed, or why I'm resigning. Reasons for resignation, that what are the things, professional reasons connected with resignations, or not offering himself for the reappointment, the reason why he don't want to continue, why he don't want to get reappointed. Okay, and also he needs to submit that copy to institute. Clear? Copy to the board, copy to the institute. Now, why we are discussing this particular thing for the removal of auditor is, when a new auditor comes in place, he needs to obtain this particular copy, either this one, or you can say this one. Okay, he needs to obtain either this copy or this copy. Copy to be obtained by incoming auditor. Now, why? Reason, because it will help him understand, okay, what are the reasons that the previous auditor resigned, what are the things there were critical professional reasons, whatever it was, and to understand further in detail, okay, whether what area he should verify for the compliance under section 139, 140, how, if something is critical, then he will come to know. Clear? Okay, now let's say another scenario. Auditor was willing to get reappointed. He was at ready. Okay, I'll perform the audit. Fine. But management denied, or management did not reappoint. Willing to get reappointed. Willing to get reappointed, but he was not reappointed, or you can say he was not taken up, or whatever reason, but he did not continue. He was willing to continue, but management did not reappoint, did not present his name, or members did not reappoint him, whatever reasons. Okay, now what he needs to do is, then this communication earlier, which we were sending to the board of directors, now this communication auditor needs to directly send to the institute. Send a communication to institute Now what he needs to provide is like the reasons. Okay, why, like what are the reasons that he feels okay were there for the professional reason connected with his not reappointment or something he wants to bring to the highlight. But again, it should not be for the useless like publicity or something to defame something, but whatever bare facts. Send a communication to the institute for the reasons, plus send a copy to management. Now in this case also, again same, incoming auditor needs to obtain this, either a copy to the from the institute or a copy sent to a management. Out of both, whatever he can get, he needs to obtain these copies to understand okay what was the reason for the resignation or not reappointment, and then he needs to proceed accordingly. Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Now the ethical standard board of ICAI may call for additional information when they receive these copies. They may call for additional information. Okay, your term, your reasons were not clear. We may need additional information. Please provide us this additional information from the management, like so, or from auditor. For so that's why it's appropriate that you send the copies or the particular communication to the institute with appropriate detail. Yeah. Any doubt? Yes, Srinidhi, it is mandatory. So you need to understand if the person is resigning from his appointment, if the auditor is resigning, he needs to provide professional reasons connected to with resignations, why he is resigning, and he needs to send a copy to the institute also. Hope I'm clear. Okay, it's good then. Okay, let's move forward. Okay. So there are, in study module also there is a, whole appendix G given. Appendix G contains a mission statement, terms for references, and procedures to be followed by board for dealing with the cases of unjust removal of auditors. I'll suggest please go through that particular appendix. It will increase your understanding regarding the whole this issue, and it will increase your understanding what are the you can say procedures that board of directors are required to follow. It will help you. Yeah. Okay. Now moving to the next clause for today. Sorry. I think there is some issue. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. We are back. Clause 10. What clause 10 talks about? Now, if a chartered accountant in practice charges or offer to charges or offer to accept, you can say professional fees, which is based upon percentage of profits or contingent upon findings of certain event. Okay, or except for the cases which are permitted by the ICAI. If he does that, then he will be guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. So for example, what he does is if he charges slash offer to charges or accepts or offers to accept. Now, why these terms are different terms are mentioned? Reason because understand, when I say charges or offer to charges, it's not necessary that that person, the auditor has or the member in practice has actually charged. If he's still offered to charging, like if he has only discussed, still it will be held guilty. Again, in second way, if the the client is offering, okay, I will pay you this much percentage of professional fees based on these terms. Okay, now, if the client even offers and the member in practice accepts that, okay, in that case also he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. So that's why charges or offer to charges, accepts or offers to accept from client. Okay. Now, if he charges or accepts or offers, okay. Now, what is that the percentage professional fee? Okay, I'll write down. Professional fees of an engagement now based on, like, which are based on, you can say, percentage of profits or based on you can say contingent upon findings or based on some event, let's say results of such employment, or based on results of such employment. When I say such employment, means whatever assignment he has taken into. Let's say if I had taken an assignment, I'll identify the issues in the controls. Now, what I did is I said, okay, based on the number of observations or issues identified, I will charge you. Now, let's say I identified 10 issues. I will charge for the per issue rupees 10,000. So total 1 lakh of rupees. So based on results of such employment, whatever I'm doing. Okay, so whatever result has come from that such employment, if I'm charging on basis of that, it can be there. Or let's say, for example, I said, if I win, okay, if I find the issues, I'll charge you 1 lakh of rupees. If I don't find any issue, I'll not charge you anything. So based on the results of such employment, if I find anything, I'll not charge you in that way. Okay, so if any of such arrangement is existing, then member in practice will be held guilty for professional misconduct. I hope it is clear what clause is. Clause 10 talks about. Now, there are certain you can say things which are allowed by the institute. Okay, there's a whole regulation available, regulation 192. We will be discussing this regulation now. Okay, regulation 192. Now, what regulation 192 talks about? Regulation 192 is on restriction of fees. Restriction of fees, but like what 192 says is that no charter account shall charge or offers to charge or accepts or offer to accepts in any professional work, like based upon percentage of profit, contingent upon findings or such results of such work, except for, which are, you can say allowed, is except for, you can say in case of a receiver or liquidator in case of a receiver or liquidator, what is allowed is percentage based on my realization, or you can say disbursements of asset. So in case of a liquidator or receiver, If I charge based on my realization or disbursement, it is fine. Second, in case of a auditor of cooperative society, if the auditor of cooperative society is there, okay, then he may charge based on percentage based on paid up capital, or you can say or working capital, or you can say net or gross income, or profits, whatever is there. Okay, now that is allowed. However, in case of a cooperative society, you need to also check for the state-wise legislation available on the cooperative society. Let's say, for example, Maharashtra Cooperative Society Act. So there are rules given, there are guidelines given for the charging of fees for the audit. Okay, based on city to city. So each and everywhere, if there is a separate, cooperative society act applicable in your region, state wise, then you need to verify, okay, what are the provisions of that particular act, and whether it is permissible by the act or not. That's a different story, but you need to verify those legislations also. I hope I am clear till now. Any doubt, guys? The more you will ask, the more you will understand. So please ask, no matter how silly the doubt is. It's perfectly fine. Okay. Third, in case of a valuer, he can, okay, for the purpose of direct taxes and duties, like, he may charge percentage based on, value of, of property that was there for the valuation. Okay. Then, in certain management consultancy services, it happens, it changes based on the services that is being provided and the services which is being under the employment or engagement. So in certain management services, fees may be decided percentage based on, you can say, basis of contingent finding, whatever, based on whatever the service is there. So percentage based on contingent finding, or you can say based on result of employment. But in certain management consultancy services where there is a separate guidelines or resolution passed by the council, so there is a separate guidelines or resolution there for each and every management consultancy service, whether it is applicable in this service or not. Because when I talk about a management consultancy service, it's a vast big list. Okay, remember in the previous lecture we saw which are the management consultancy services, the big list. So yeah, so in certain of these services, it has been already decided by the council, and you need to follow that. Okay. Then another area is fundraising. Fundraising service. If there is a fundraising service, then okay, it is fine if you charge percentage based on fundraised. Okay. Then in case of debt recovery, In case of debt recovery service, percentage based on debt recovered. Okay, percentage based on debt recovered. In case of cost optimization, service, cost optimization service is just like, there are concepts like Six Sigma, Kaizen, bringing Six Sigma or Kaizen to my processes, or streamlining the processes, bringing to the next level, carrying the maturity assessment and identifying which are the critical areas of processes. So that's a cost optimization services where you identify, okay, where can we cut down the cost in a particular process, or where can we streamline the process so that there should be some benefit out of that. Okay, now in these kind of services, it may happen that, okay, we may charge percentage based on, you can say, benefit derived. So percentage based on benefit derived after the service is can be there. Okay, now in, there can be other services also which will be based on notification by council. And as of today, council has already issued notification for two things. One, acting as, you can say, insolvency professional. Second, non-assurance service. Two, non-assurance service to non-audit clients. Okay, so these are the things which are already notified by the council and their way, like how it can work in these scenarios. But this is the whole regulation 192 regarding the restriction of fees. So except in these services, we cannot charge percentage based on, contingent finding or result of unemployment or result of employment. Any doubts till now? Any doubts, guys? What we can do is, let me see if we can take up one question over here, just to, to enhance our understanding. Let me bring up the question. Okay, I'll give you one example over here only. It's a pretty easy example, nothing hard. Okay. Now there was Mr. X. Okay. Mr. X, like he was approached by a client, let's say ABC Limited. ABC Limited was non-banking financial corporation, NBFC, providing in loans. Okay. Now NBFC asked from Mr. A, okay, you provide me two things. One, debt recovery service. You provide me debt recovery service. Number two, you provide me, you can say, certifications services, like where he needs to certify, let's say, net worth. Okay, when he needs to certify net worth. So certification, net worth certificate, he was supposed to provide. So these two things the company asked. for the debt recovery service, 2% of debt recovered. For the certification, he said, okay, 0.5% of net worth will be my fees. It will be fees. Now, this was a particular thing, 2% of the debt recovered and 0.5% of the net worth. Okay. And altogether, they will be charging on the basis of this. So this was a one common agreement. One common agreement. Now, Mr. X was not sure whether he can, draft a one common agreement for these both two services or not. So he has approached you whether this one common agreement for these both services is valid or not. So guys, you need to provide whether this particular arrangement of one common agreement for these two services is good or not. Come on. Come on, guys. Let's see whether this is applicable or it's good or no go. Correct, Sairam? Come on, guys, come on. I'm waiting. Okay. Correct. Yep. Correct, Srinidhi. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sairam and Srinidhi, for your answer. Okay. So, yes, this is not correct. I'm fine with this particular thing, but I'm not fine with this particular thing. He cannot combine, he cannot, provide services of like network certification, assurance related services, attestation related services based on percentage finding, although it's a one common agreement. So this is no go, not allowed. So it will be not allowed. Clear? Okay. Correct, Vidula. Yep. But Sairam, you need to make sure that, okay, in second of the scenario also, you cannot charge percentage based on the contingent finding or some result. Reason because it's not allowed. So network certificate services are not there in the part of regulation 192. If you see the regulation 192, receiver, cooperative society, valuer, management consultancy, fundraising, debt recovery, cost, and other, if like insolvency and non-assurance to non-audit clients. So nowhere the attestation like certification is there. So the second one will be altogether not allowed. And if any arrangement is there, he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. Correct, Priya. Correct, Amrita. Absolutely correct. Good, Amrita. Yeah. Okay, then let's move to the next clause. Clause 11. Charter accountant in practice, member in practice, I'll say member in practice engages in any business, okay, or occupation other than which are permitted. So the thing is, engages in any business or occupation. Sorry. engages in any business or occupation other than permitted by council. Hypothetical example, I cannot run a grocery shop with a CA practice. Not allowed, basically. We'll see what is allowed, what is not allowed, but same way. If my father has a grocery shop, I cannot run the grocery shop also and practice also. Hypothetical example, guys. But so, okay, what is allowed and what is not allowed in the current case is like there are two bifurcations. Okay. Now, when I say two bifurcations, there is a regulation 190 and there is regulation 191. So regulation 190, 191, both they provide details on, like what is allowed, what is not allowed. Also, there is a, there are services where the council has already provided the permission. Okay, these are the like permission generally granted. No need to ask for the specific permission from the council. You can engage in that. But there is a set of service where you need to first ask the specific permission from the council. Okay, you need to ask the first approval from the council and then you can engage. Now, when I say this is applicable to member in practice, not in employment. Okay, I just kidding. So yeah, this is the part one applicable to member in practice. Okay. So 198 talks about, I'll tell you now, regulation 198. Now, what regulation 198 talks about? Okay, a chartered accountant should not engage in any other business or occupation except with the permission granted in accordance with the resolution of council. Okay. So, if a resolution has been passed by a council, then he can engage. Now, council has passed resolution and he has given like general resolution, you can say. Okay, wherein permissions are generally granted and specific resolution where you need to take in prior approval, specific and prior approval from council on case to case basis. So when I say general, permission granted, okay, it's there, and here prior approval is required. Now let's see which are the where we have a permission granted and where we need to we can just engage in that activity like generally. Okay, first, employment under CA in practice, you can say under CA in practice. If I do an employment under CA in practice or in a CA firm, that is fine, that is allowed. Okay. Private tutorship. When I say private, that doesn't mean you do advertisement marketing and hire a lot of people and create a team and a whole educational institute. No, private tutorship means you are giving tutorship to a one person, two person, or a group of in a closed environment. That's a private tutorship, not where you do a marketing and all those branding stuff. Authorship of books, authorship for books and articles which are published in newspaper, journals, professional articles or something like that. Holding life insurance agency, holding life insurance agency, but only for renewal commission. Okay, only for renewal commission means, okay, you are dealing into renewal of policies, that is nothing else. No, only limited for the purpose of renewal of commission, renewal commission. Okay, then attending classes and appearing for exam. Okay, holding public offices or public elective offices. Now, when I say public elective offices, these are like, member of parliament, member of legislative assembly, or you can say councillor, municipal councillor, like that. So if you can hold public elective offices, that is fine. Honorary positions. Now, what are honorary positions? Honorary positions are like, like you can say leadership position of charitable or educational institute or non-commercial organization, non-profit organizations. So honorary positions of, you can say, charitable institute slash non-governmental or commercial non-profit organizations, non-commercial organizations. Okay, so if these are there, then it is fine. Acting as a notary, then some positions like, notary, justice of peace, special executive magistrate, that is fine. Part-time tutorship under coaching organization of institute. If you do a part-time tutorship under coaching organization of institute, means ICAI, then it is fine. What I'm doing. Valuation of papers. When I say papers, means exam papers, like valuation of papers, paper setter, paper setting sort of process, or paper setter, moderator. So this is fine. Okay. Then again, editorship in professional journal. Again, professional journal, not any journal. If I go and become editor of fashion journal, professional journal. Acting as a surveyor, or for the under Insurance Act or otherwise. Then acting as recovery consultant in banking sector. Okay, I'm acting as a recovery consultant in banking sector. Then carrying agricultural activity. Now this is with effect from 09/08/2008. Before that you were not able to do, but now after 2008 you can do agriculture activity also. Any doubt till now? Harshad, so Harshad, there's one thing you need to understand. Non-assurance services. When I say non-assurance services, there is no kind of assurance. In certification, there is an assurance you are providing. So it's an assurance sort of service. So if it is a non-assurance service to a non-audit client, then it is fine. But if it's an assurance service to a non-audit client, not appropriate. Okay, then these were the general ones where the permission is there. Now the specific ones where the permission you need to obtain by approval. What are these? Simple. Full-time or part-time employment along with being in practice. So if I take a full-time or part-time employment along with being in practice in business, then I need to take a specific permission. However, there is a condition that the relatives of the member, okay, member or his relatives, member or relatives should not hold substantial interest in such business. In that business. So there should not be a substantial interest holding by my family member or by me in that particular business. Okay, yeah. Then again, full-time or part-time employment in business. Again, full-time or part-time in, you can say, non-business concern. Non-business concern means you can say non-profit organizations, non-commercial organizations, something like that. So if you have an employment, full-time, part-time employment in those, then it is perfectly fine. You need to take an approval. Okay, office of managing director or full-time director of a company. However, again, the condition is member / relative should not hold substantial interest in company. Okay, so any of my member or any of my relative or me myself cannot hold substantial interest in that particular company, then I can take an office of managing director or whole-time director. However, one more thing I just want to add over here is, however, a chartered accountant in practice, can become a director of a company. He can become a director of a company. Okay, now director of company basically allowed, but MD / whole-time director not allowed. Just now we saw that we need to take a specific permission. Also, we need to make sure that when I say a director of a company, then my partner, okay, or if it is a firm, then partner or myself, member or partner, should not be interested in that particular company. So member / partner should not be interested in that particular company. Okay, so we should not be interested in such company as an auditor, then it is fine. Sorry. as an auditor. Okay, I shouldn't be interested in an auditor in that particular company. Like I should not be auditor of that particular company. Then I can take directorship, okay, of that company. But managing director, whole-time director, not allowed. Only directorship I'm talking about. I hope it is clear. Okay. Now, another area where I need to take a specific permission is interest in family business. Okay. When I have an interest in family business, but what I need to do is I need to provide a detail. Okay, this particular interest has been transferred to me or has been devolved upon me through inheritance, succession, or partition of the family business. It is not the one I who has acquired the interest in the family business. So this should be result of, you can say, inheritance, succession, or partition. Okay, then it is fine. I need to provide the details. Okay, this is not the something I'm actively, holding or managing the business, but it's something because of the inheritance or succession I have received the benefit or the interest in the family business. For example, my father had a grocery shop. He now did a partition between me and my brother. Now half of the grocery shop is on, I have the interest in half of the grocery shop, and my brother has a half of the interest. This is because of the inheritance or the succession, not because I wanted to have the grocery shop. Hypothetical example. Okay. So I need to provide the detail. Okay, the interest in family business is because of the inheritance or succession or the partition. But I need to make sure that, okay, I'm not taking the active part in that particular business. I'm not there in that particular grocery shop selling groceries, or half of the grocery shop which is being given by my father. But the thing is, I should not be taking any active part. Okay. Then interest in educational institute. You need to take specific permission. Then part-time or full-time lectureship, part-time, full-time lectureship for courses other than related to, for courses other than related to institutes examination, or for examination which are conducted under the institute or regional councils or branches. So are related to institute, other than related to institute. Then again, part-time / full-time tutorship, part-time, full-time tutorship in under any educational institute. Okay. Under any educational institute other than ICAI's like coaching organization. So if there is a like coaching organization of the institute, then it is fine because it will cover into general. If it is not, it's any other educational institute, it will be covered in specific. Editorship of other journals. See, professional journals covered in general resolution, other journals covered in specific resolution, or any other business for which you like you need to go to the council and obtain a prior approval before engaging in that. So this was basically, for the general and the specific resolution list which is being given under regulation 190A. Now, when I say a relative will include, so at certain places we were talking about relative, like member or relative over here, like, then again, member or relatives of member. What is relative over here? Relative means husband, wife, brother, sister, or any lineal ascendant or descendant of that member. So that will be covered under the relative. So, and when I say substantial interest, so substantial interest means like if I have, carrying not less than 20% or more than 20% of voting rights, or so voting rights. So I may have called the substantial interest. If I have more than 20% of the voting rights, then it will be substantial interest. Now it can be jointly by my relatives, or one or more relatives can have 20% like this way. So these are the like it should be covered for whole of the relatives. Okay. Then another area where another regulation comes into the picture for this particular clause. Till now we saw regulation 190, which talks about, okay, uh, like specific and general resolutions. We saw for the directors. Now there is one more. Regulation 191. Now regulation 191 talks about like part-time employment as in part-time employment as an, liquidator. Now a chartered accountant in practice may act as a liquidator, or you can say trustee, or you can say administrator, arbitrator. Okay. Then he may act as a receiver or representative, for costing or financial or taxation matter, whatever matter it is. Okay. Or may take an appointment made by central government, state government, or law. You can say appointment by central government, state government, law based on some law or legislature, or any other legal position, legal based on legal requirement. Okay, in his professional capacity. Provided it should not be, full-time basis. Now when I say regulation 191, it will be, part-time employment. I'm talking about part-time employment. Okay, so regulation 191, you can have these positions, part-time employment in your professional capacity, should not be full-time salary basis. If it is there, then it is fine, you can go ahead. Yeah, there is no specific requirement for approval. Okay. Yeah, any doubt till now? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Okay. Sairam, like if you started before, okay, and then you cleared your examination, and then when you are member in practice, before starting your practice, you need to make sure you are not engaged in any of the businesses which are not permitted by the council. You need to take a prior approval. Okay, you need to see, okay, if you are going for a practice, you are being a member in practice, then you need to take a specific approval. But you cannot take active in participant in that particular business, because it is a basic concept. You can be at one place in one point in time. Either you can focus on a practice, either you can focus on any other business. If you run two business together, you cannot focus on both businesses together. So there will be a quality impact in your practice. You won't be able to deliver that much quality or that much focus which is required to be given in practice. Okay, that's the basic concept over here. Thank you, Srinidhi. See, confusion, Vidula, and confusion for appointment by law or legal and elected as MP and MLA. See, appointed by law or legal position, when I say, it is like, okay, the central government has a form a committee where he needs advice and he wants to appoint members from the institute as an representative of the committee. Let's say, for example, there is a committee on taxation matters formed by the central government. There is a specific committee formed by the High Court on basis of some law. They want to they want a report on this particular area. So there is a central government, or central government wants some part-time advisors for their department of direct taxation or revenue. So they may come up with the additional positions, the central government, state government. When I say law, means based on the law, there are in various laws there are various committees there, or boards are there where a professional person is required. So these are the appointed by central government, state government, law, legal. But when I say MP MLA, it's a public elective. You go for the election, public elects you, and then you become that particular person, or you hold that particular position. In this case, it is you are being appointed by the state or central government on part-time basis. There's a difference in both. I hope it is clear. Okay. Okay, Siva. So now CA in practice can become a partner in a firm where another business is carried on. Okay. Now, when you become a partner in any other firm where other business is carried on, means you are being interested in any other business. Now, again, as I said, you can become interested in your family business because of the result of inheritance, succession, or partition, or you can become interested in an educational institute. Okay, but you need to take a specific approval. Okay, so if you are becoming interested, and then you need to take a specific approval from the council. But at the end, you need to make sure, okay, you should not be actively participating in that particular business. I hope it is clear. Any doubt till now, guys? Any doubt? See, guys, the crux is that, okay, it should not happen that you are sailing two boats at the same time. Okay, now what will happen is either one of the boat will get disbalanced if you try to sail on both boats, keeping one leg here, one leg here. It may happen you get disbalanced and one of the boat will sink, and this should not happen. This is the main point over here. Okay, focus on one particular area, deliver the quality over there, because when I say a member in practice requires a lot of time. It is not like that, okay, you will have a lot of time to invest in some other business. No, when you are delivering an engagement, you need to provide the quality, you need to comply with the relevant standards, laws, regulations, quality standards, and it requires time. And that's why these things are there. In certain things, okay, it is generally allowed, fine, because they don't take that much of your time, or they will not hamper your being in practice. It will not hamper the quality. But on the other hand, it may create a conflict of interest. It may create some of the threats for your business or for the practice member in practice, and that's why it is there that you need to take a prior approval from the council. Okay, so these were the certain scenarios, things for this particular clause. Any doubt? Guys, please do provide your feedback, please. Reason because the moment you will provide your feedback, it will be very helpful for us to understand like where you need further more details and where you need some more information on which area. Thank you, Vidula. Harshad, you may apply for the permission, but again, the point is you need to understand why you want to carry both, because both of them requires your full time. When I say full time, you can devote full time to any one of the activity, but you cannot devote full time to both of the activities. Okay, yeah, let me then move forward. Let me see if I have a good question for this particular example, then we can move forward. Yeah. Okay, so there is one question. Mr. Raj is a leading income tax practitioner and consultant for derivative products. Okay. He resides in Bangalore near to XYZ Commodity Stock Exchange and does trading in commodity derivatives. Every day he invests nearly 50% of his time to settle the commodity transactions. Though he has not taken any permission for this, is CA Raj liable for professional misconduct? So when I say leading income tax practitioner, means he is member in practice. I'll replace this word, may create a confusion. Member in practice. Okay. Now Mr. Raj is a leading member in practice and consultant for derivative products. Now you tell me whether it is appropriately right or he needs to take a prior approval or it covers under the general one. Correct, Vidula. On the left one, if I talk about here, they don't require specific approvals, but on the right one, these require specific approval. Come on, guys. Is it appropriate if he invests his 50% of the time to settle the commodity transactions of XYZ stock exchange? Come on, guys. Come on. Yep. Correct, Sainam. Correct, Harshad. Correct, Vidula. Absolutely correct. Yes, he requires a special permission. Reason because, again, don't sail two boats at the same time. The point is, if you'll invest your time in the commodity transaction, you won't be able to, provide the time into your practice. You won't be able to deliver that quality. So, if you are doing any other business which is not covered under the general list, or which either it is covered under the specific list, you need to take a prior approval from the council. I hope it is clear. Okay, then let me move on to the next clause for today. And last clause for this particular part. It's easy one. Clause 12. Clause 12. What the clause 12 talks about? Clause 12 talks about allows a, like, if a member in practice allows a person not being a member of the institute in practice, okay, if he's not being a member of the institute in practice, or he's not a member or partner like of his firm, and he still allows him to sign on his behalf, or his behalf of firm, like any balance sheet, profit and loss account reports, or financial statement, then he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. Now, 3 points. Number one, whom we are allowing, like person who is not a member of institute. Okay, a person who is not a member of institute in practice, or he's not a member, okay, member but not being partner of firm, you can say. Okay, now he's a member but he's not a partner of the firm. So either person is not a member of institute, or he's not a member of partner of the firm. Okay, now if like in case if you want to sign on behalf of firm, I'll separate these both together. I'll separate these both, so it will be very easy to understand. Over here, I'll write member not being partner, and this here, okay, person not being member in practice of institute. Okay, now if we allow to sign to any of these, okay, now member not being a partner of firm, or a person not being a member in practice of institute, if we allow to sign, what we allow to sign is profit balance sheet, P&L reports, or financial statement. If we allow to sign these things to these two category of guys, then the member in practice who is allowing to sign, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay, so if he allowed to sign to a person who is not being a member in practice, or to a person who is not being a partner on behalf of his firm or his partnership firm, or himself, balance sheet, P&L report, or financial statement, then he will be held guilty for the professional misconduct. I hope it is clear. Okay, then there are certain documents which are allowed by the council. Council has clarified, okay, these are certain documents which don't require authentication, or these are not, form of any assurance. If we sign, if these person sign on that particular document, then this is not being a form of assurance, or they are not forming any authentication. Okay, but sub delegation of signing on these documents can be done by you say employee of firm, or let's say article assistant. So what are these document is sub delegation is permissible. Okay. Subdelegation to whom? Subdelegation to my employee, or you can say article assistant. So if subdelegation is being done to these guys, it will be allowed. But subdelegation of what? Subdelegation of, let's say, if they are signing, or if they are doing a signature on issues of audit query, issue of audit query, like, okay, someone is issuing an audit query to the client. We prepare an observation tracker or list of issues that are identified during the audit, and we provide that particular thing to the client. So if we sign, okay, these are the issues for the audit which are required to be resolved, and if any of the person signs and gives, like my employee or article assistant, then it's fine, because this is not any form of assurance here. Document asking for information. Then letter forwarding draft observations. Then you can say stamping of vouchers or scheduled. Then you can say routine correspondence, signing on routine correspondence. Let's say we are giving daily status, so we prepare a list. Okay, what is the status of the audit, and we send to the client. So if he's signing on that daily correspondence, routine correspondence, fine. Issuing memorandum. Now, memorandum of what? Memorandum in case of cash verification, inventory. Let's say, sometimes we perform the inventory verification, cash verification, physical verification, let's say fixed asset verification. Verifications, and we prepare a memorandum. Okay, these were the total cash counted, total inventory counted, and like that way. So if we are preparing cash verification or inventory verification done by my employee or article assistant, it's fine, he can sign it for that limited purpose. Raising of bills. Then you can say attending routine matters. Okay. So attending routine matters with respect to income tax. But however, you need to make sure that, okay, section 288 of income tax is being complied. Okay, who can attend, who can appear before the income tax authorities. So section 288 is required to be complied, but again, it is allowed. Such sub-delegation is fine within the limits. Within there will be no, you can say, non-compliance of this particular clause. Any doubts till now? Any doubts, guys? Okay, we have some. Sairam, there are various ways, I'll say. The details are, available to the institute. Harshad, when we say general resolution in case of tutorship, it is only for, I'll show you. It is either private tutorship in case of general, or it's a part-time tutorship under coaching organization of institute, not the private one. If it is a part-time tutorship under the coaching organization of institute, it's fine. If it is private tutorship, it is fine. If it is not, then it will be covered under specific. Member not being in practice, he is not a chartered accountant in practice, Sanjay. Siva, no. If a member, if that particular person is not a partner, then he cannot sign on behalf of the firm. These are the Vidula, these are the terminologies used in the same way, but we call it article assistant. Same terminology, like same thing. There is no much difference. Any further doubt, guys? Any further doubt? No? Okay. What we can do is we can take a quick break and then we can then start part 2 of this first schedule. Part 2 is related to the member of institute in service. Pretty easy, 4 clauses. We'll go through quickly. Okay. Let's take a quick 10-minute break. Come back, recharge, and then we'll start part 2. Hello everyone, welcome back. Let's now move forward for the rest of the clause, part 2 and part 3 of first schedule, and then we'll move to the second schedule. Okay, now starting with part 2. Now part 2 is applicable to members in service. Okay, members of institute in service. That's the part 2. Okay, then let's discuss each and every clause of the part 2 in detail, and then we can move forward for the next one. Okay, so clause 1 of sorry sorry okay, what clause 1 talks about is a member in service. Now earlier we were talking about member in practice, now we are talking about a member in service. Okay, now if a member in service allows, pays or agrees to pay, okay, pays or slash agrees uh, allows or pays or agrees to pay any like you can say directly or indirectly any share, directly slash indirectly any share, okay, any share in let's say like portion of his employment that he is receiving, the amount from his employment, okay, amount of you can say salary, we call it emoluments, or you can say any portion he is receiving because of the employment, amount received under employment, amount received under employment. Okay, if he pays, agrees to pay, or allows, agrees to allow to pay any share of amount he has received under employment, okay, undertaken by him, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So he is like during the course of organization, during the course of employment, if he shares any of the amount with anyone, then he will be he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. Then the crux of this particular clause here is like the job or whatever employment that he has obtained, it should be based on his thing, or it should be written based on his own quality or his own service. He shouldn't be paying any amount of the percentage or any share, or because I'm getting a job, I'll pay you this amount, please get me job, I'll pay you that amount. No, it's it's based on the professional capabilities or a professional you can say skills, rather than on the basis of amount. So he should be getting or doing that employment based on professional capabilities. Okay, clause 2. One was pretty easy, nothing much detail in this. Clause 2, okay, now clause 2 talks about accepts or agrees to accept. If a member in service accepts slash agrees to accept, okay, any part of fees, profit, or you can say any gains, okay, from whom? From a lawyer, from a chartered accountant, broker. Okay, if he accepts or agrees to accept any part of fees or profit or gains from a lawyer, chartered accountant, broker engaged by such company, engaged by such company, or you can say firm or person or agent or customer of such company, like, by such company directly or indirectly, you can say, such company, uh, and this amount should be by in nature of, you can say, commission or gratification. Okay, if I'm receiving any part of fees, profit or gains as a commission or gratification from a lawyer, CA, broker, you know, uh, which is engaged by a company, or I am receiving from a person who is, employed by the company, let's say customer of the company, agent, or you can say any officer. So if that particular broker is, like you say, agent of company or customer of company, agent of a customer of company. So if I'm receiving, like, related to something from directly or indirectly from company, part of fees or profits or gain, like as a commission or gratification, then it will be held, that particular member in service will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, why? Reason: because any sort of commission or gratification from these person, may, create a conflict of interest, will create a conflict of interest. Reason: because what we are getting as a part of our employment is based on my contractual relationship. It is appropriately mentioned in my contract, that is there. Any gratification or commission which is, provided to me may, create a conflict, and may, something like that. Okay, I need to provide a favor, and that's why I'm getting commission or gratification. This will not be on to a good standard, or this will not be, up to the that fundamental principles that we need to follow. Let's, for example, integrity. I need to be honest, straightforward, objectivity, and all those fundamental principles that we discussed. So this will against that, will be against that fundamental principles. Okay, any doubts till now? Any doubts? Okay, so these were the two clauses for my part 2, okay, of first schedule. Now part 3 of first schedule. Now, what part 3 is applicable to whom it is applicable? It is for the professional misconduct in relation to the member of institute generally. So, member of institute generally. So, it is not like that it should be member in service, member in practice. No. If he is a member of institute, this part is applicable. Okay. Clause 1. What clause 1 talks about? Not being a fellow member of institute, but accept the fellow. So, for example, if I'm not a fellow member of institute, okay, being fellow member of institute, but X as in fellow member, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear? Pretty simple. Not being a fellow of the institute, X as a fellow of institute, guilty of professional misconduct. Clause 2. does not supply when a member of institute, okay, when a member of institute does not supply the information which is called for, or when institute asks you some information, or committee or any of its council, director discipline, or you can say disciplinary committee, quality review board, appellant authority, if these authorities of the institute ask for the information and the member of institute does not provide the information which is called for, or does not comply with the requirements which are placed before the member, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Two things then. One, does not provide information. Okay. Second, does not comply with requirement of or issued by. Okay. By whom? So you can say institute, council, or you can say committee of the institute, director discipline, disciplinary committee, or then disciplinary committee, you can say board of discipline, okay, then board of discipline, then quality review board, okay, or appellant authority. If any of the information or compliance is issued by them, if member does not comply with or does not provide the information, then he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. I hope it is clear. Okay. Any doubts till now? Vidul, referral fees as in for what nature and for what purpose it is? Can you clarify that? Okay. Now clause 3, let's move to the clause 3 then. Okay. Clause 3. What clause 3 talks about? Clause 3 talks about while inviting professional work from other charter accountant, or while responding to the tenders or inquiries, or while advertising through a write up, or anything which is there in clause 6 and 7 of part 1. Remember, with respect to the advertising or for soliciting clients or professional attainments, okay, gives information which is known to be false. So if there is any information which is given in, let's say, while advertisement, writing up, responding to tenders, if that information is false, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. So what he is doing is, if he is providing providing false information. Member generally, whether in practice or not, or in service, doesn't matter. But he is a member of institute and he's providing false information, and like he's aware that okay, information is not correct, and still he provides it, gives information knowing to be false. If he knows that information is false and still he provides it, and when he provides, like while inviting work from other chartered accountant, or while responding tenders, okay, or you can say while advertising, through write-up, or through advertise, or you can say while advertising, you can consider clause 6 and 7 matters also here. Okay, then through write-up, if he providing any information which is he knows that is false through a write-up, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear? Any doubt? So these were the 3 clauses of part 3 of first schedule. Any doubt, guys? Okay, Vidula, if that person, like if member in practice, okay, if he's doing for referring the clients and he's taking the referral fee, then I think you need to check, because in that case it will be in contravention with the clause 2 and clause 3 of part 1. It will not be allowed. Okay, it will be a professional misconduct. I hope it is clear. Any further doubt, guys? These are pretty easy clauses, nothing much detail is there. Yeah, I think then we can move forward to the next part. Okay, so let's move to the next part for today. That is part 4 of first schedule. Part 4. Now, part 4 talks about other misconduct. Remember, not a professional misconduct, but other misconduct. And we'll see what is the difference between professional misconduct and other misconduct when we will discuss about disciplinary proceedings. Okay. Now, other misconduct related to members of institute generally. Now, it contains 2 clauses. Clause 1. Clause 2. Okay. Okay. Now, what clause 1 talks about here is that a member generally, whether in practice or not, a member of institute will be held guilty of other misconduct if he has been guilty of any civil or criminal guilty by any civil or criminal court for an offense. So if he has been held guilty by any civil or criminal court, okay, if he has been guilty by any civil or criminal court for an offense which is punishable, for which the punishment, you can say, for which the punishment with imprisonment, like for the punishment for imprisonment is not exceeding 6 months, means it is less than 6 months. Okay, it is less than 6 months. Now he will be, if that person, that member is held guilty by any civil or criminal court for an offense for which the imprisonment is less than 6 months, then he will be guilty of other misconduct. Okay, that's the clause 1. Clause 2 is that if member in generally, whether in practice or not, in the opinion of council, now in the opinion of council, means if council thinks that the member has brought or has or he's brings disrepute to the profession, or to the institute. If he is bringing disrepute to the profession or to the institute, as a result of his actions, okay, as a result of his actions, which may or may not be related to the professional work, like may or may not be related to professional work. Okay, now if a person or if a member of institute, as per the council, brings disrepute to the profession or to the institute because of his actions, because of the result of his actions, which may or may not be related to the professional work he has performed or he is performing, then he can be called as a guilty of other misconduct as per the clause 2. I hope it is clear. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt till now? Any doubt? Okay. Okay, then if no further doubt, guys, then what we can do is we can start with the second schedule. Okay, and we'll discuss each and every clause of second schedule in detail. Okay, now again, like the first schedule, second schedule is also consisting of 3 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay, and each part contains details like, for chartered accountant in practice, part 1, professional misconduct in relation to chartered accountant in practice. Part 2 will be, for part 2 for the service, and part 3 for the general. Like in this way, we will discuss each and every part, and then we will, with examples, we will understand each and every clause of each part. Okay. Okay. I'll first write down the summary of the part 1 so that it will be easy for you guys to see. Part 1, part 2, and part 3. Part 2, part 1 as the member for practice, member in practice. Okay. Part 2 will be members generally, like not in service, not in practice, but they are member. There will be that. Members generally. Okay. Part 2 talks about professional misconduct, whether he's in practice or he's a member in generally, that is fine. Now part third is a other misconduct. Okay. Now when I say part one, member in practice, okay, it contains various clauses. Let me write down a summary for you. Just a minute. Stuff, sorry. Okay. So clause 1 of part 1 talks about that, okay, if a member in practice, okay, if a member in practice discloses information in the course of his professional engagement to any person to other than his client without consent, okay, then he will be guilty for professional misconduct. So talks about disclosing of information. That is the clause 1. Okay. Clause 2 talks about certifying or certifies or submits his name on the report or any examination or a financial statement unless he himself has performed the examination or or by his partner or employee of his firm or by any chartered accountant in practice. So if he's not associated, he has not performed that examination, uh, sorry. Okay. So if he has not performed that examination and still he certifies or submits his name, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. That's the clause 2 of part 1. Okay. So I can say certifies without examination as a summary. Just okay. Then clause 3. Clause 3 talks about my that he permits his name or name of his firm when a chartered accountant in practice permits his name or name of his firm to be used with an estimate of earning based upon contingent finding. Okay, so when he allows his name to be used with such uh, based on what you say estimate of earnings, which is based on contingent finding upon future transactions, like if there is something contingent and his name is being used or his firm's name is like has been used, where we are seeing, okay, where there is a it is disclosed that, okay, he's vouching for the he's vouching for the forecast or he's providing accuracy for that particular forecast that has been coming out of that particular disclosure, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So you can say vouches for estimate of earnings based upon contingent upon future findings. So contingent upon future. Okay, that's a clause 3. Now clause 4. Clause 4 talks about that when a chartered accountant in practice expresses his opinion on the financial statement of any business, okay, if he expresses an opinion on the financial statement of any business or enterprise, which or in which he or his partner has a substantial interest. So if he is holding a substantial interest or his partner is holding a substantial interest, and if he, express his opinion, then he will be held guilty. So express opinion on interested concern, sort of. Then clause 5. Okay. Clause 5 talks about fail to disclose material fact, which was known to him. If a chartered accountant in practice, okay, if he fails to disclose a material fact which was known to him, like which is not disclosed in the financial statement, okay, for which the disclosure was necessary, then he will be held guilty. So, fails to disclose material fact. Clause 6. Clause 6 talks about fails to report material misstatement. Okay. We'll understand the difference when we'll understand the difference when we'll go to the clause by clause. Fails to report material misstatement. Okay. Then clause 7. Clause 7 talks about like when a chartered accountant in practice does not exercise due diligence or is a grossly negligent, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So if he is having, he is grossly negligent or he does not exercise due diligence in conducting his professional duties, then he will be held guilty for the professional misconduct. So it's always, like based upon your professional judgment. When you are exercising a professional judgment, you need to make sure that you apply appropriate skill, and you need to apply due care, and based on that, this we will be discussing this particular clause. Clause 8 talks about that when a chartered accountant in practice, okay, fails to obtain sufficient information which was necessary for expressing the opinion. Now, without doing an audit, if I express my opinion on audit by, like, okay, I did not perform the audit, but I'm still expressing the opinion, or I did not gather the information, still I'm expressing opinion, I'll be held guilty for professional misconduct. So, fails to obtain information for expressing opinion. Okay, so if a chartered accountant fails to gather information for expressing opinion, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clause 9. Clause 9 talks about fails to invite, like when a chartered accountant practice fails to invite attention on any material departure from generally accepted audit procedures applicable to the circumstance or engagement, then he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. So I can say fails to invite attention from material departure. Then comes clause 10. Clause 10, if you talk about clause 10, then clause 10 is like with related to the money, like a chartered accountant in practice, when he fails to keep money of the client other than the fees or remuneration in separate bank account. Okay. So when he fails to keep money of client in separate bank account, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So this was my part 1. Now coming to the part 2. Part 2 talks about, if member generally contravenes any of the guidelines, regulation, act, then he will be guilty of this particular clause. So, contravenes any guidelines, act, or you can say provisions like issued by council, let's say like guidelines related to article assistant, guidelines related to the registration of article assistant, premium, that is stipend to article assistant, termination of assignments, then audit assistant, register of office or firms. We saw various regulations, restriction on fees, regulation 190A, engage not to engage in any other business or occupation. So if there is a contravention of any of the regulation, guidelines, act, provisions of the act issued by council, or any notification which is mandatory for chartered accountant to follow, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clause 2. Now clause 2 talks about being an employee of company, disclose confidential information. So if you are an employee and you disclose confidential information, okay, if you disclose confidential information which you have acquired during the course of your employment with that particular company to any person to whom it was not allowed, then you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clause 3. Clause 3 talks about now remember earlier we talked about, okay, not providing information to the committee, director discipline, board of discipline, or to institute in first schedule. In second schedule, if you provide the information which is false or incorrect to institute, now if you provide them false or incorrect information to institute knowingly, then you will be held guilty under this particular clause. Clause 4 talks about embezzles money received in professional capacity. So if he takes the money, perform the embezzlement, and he the money which was given to him in his professional capacity, then he will be held guilty. Received in professional capacity. That was clause 4. So that was for the part 2. And part 3, other misconduct, contains that only one clause I can say, or the only thing is so convicted, okay, convicted by criminal, or you can say by civil court, held guilty for an imprisonment is greater than 6 months as a punishment, then he will be held guilty of other misconduct under part 3. So these were the summary of second schedule. Okay. Disclosing information, certifying without examination, vouching for an estimate, expressing opinion on interested concern, false to disclose material, false to report material misstatement, grossly negligent, fails to obtain information, fails to invite attention, fails to keep money of client in separate bank account. First 10 clauses. Okay, now let's discuss each clause in detail. Okay, we'll discuss each clause in detail. Now, just a minute. Okay. As we discussed, clause 1 means, clause 1 talks about disclosing information that has been acquired during professional engagement Okay, that has been acquired during professional engagement. Now when I disclose, so disclosing to other person, and that should also be without the consent of client, to other person which is not a client, not a not to client, basically not to that client, and that too plus without consent of client. Okay, or when without requirement of law. So there was no requirement of law also to disclose that information. If I disclose information which is acquired during professional engagement to other person who is not a part of client without the consent of client, or without requirement of law, then I will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, why I said law is because at times it is necessary to disclose information under certain law. Like for example, in case of a fraud under Companies Act, there's a required there's a provision to disclose the information to the central government based on certain limits of that fraud that has been there or something like that, subject to other conditions. But yeah, there is a requirement under the law. Although the client may give you consent or not, you are required to disclose. So either it should be with the consent of client, or either it is, if it is required as per the law, then it is fine, otherwise not. Okay, now one of the example I'll take here, Mr. X. Okay, he's an auditor of ABC. Mr. Y, he is branch auditor of ABC. Now Mr. X asked for working papers of Mr. Y. Mr. X, who is the whole company auditor, has asked working papers of Mr. Y. Mr. Y in turn denied access to working papers. Okay, Mr. Y denied access to the working papers. So you tell me whether this is appropriate or not. So whether Mr. Y can deny, what is the appropriate way out over here? Come on, guys. Can Mr. Y deny to the access to the working paper? It can happen if he provides the access. It may fall into this particular clause that he is disclosing information without the consent of client. Come on, guys, pretty simple. Come on, it's pretty simple, nothing difficult. Okay, Arshad. Correct, Mahendra. Somewhat Vidula, half correct, half not. Correct, Srinidhi. Correct. So guys, there is difference between sharing of information and sharing of work paper. Okay, what Mr. X can do is Mr. X can share a questionnaire. Okay, please provide this information or information about these questions. That is sharing of information, and Mr. Y needs to provide that information. But Mr. X cannot access the work papers without the permission of Mr. Y. Mr. Y, if he is denying the permission to the access to the working paper, then it's his right. So this is appropriate. There's a difference between sharing of information versus sharing of working papers. There is no requirement for sharing of working papers, but there is a requirement for the sharing of information. So information can be shared through, response to a questionnaire, response to specific details that has been asked by Mr. X. Okay, Mr. X may ask, what is the balance of this particular company for this particular branch? You provide me the details. Okay, information can be shared if it is asked by Mr. X, but working papers, again, no requirement to share working papers. Correct, Sanjay. Absolutely correct. Okay. So yeah. So these are the particular things for the clause 1. Disclosing information acquired during professional engagement to other person without consent will be held guilty for the professional misconduct. Clear? Okay. Now clause 2. Clause 2 talks about certifies or submits his name or firm's name on a report, okay, on the examination of financial statement unless such examination is performed by him. So for example, he has not performed the examination, still he submits his name or his firm's name, then he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So certifies or submits his name on what? On the report of examination, okay, examination of financial statements. Unless it is examined by, okay, unless such statements or related records has been unless it is examined by him, or you can say by partner, or you can say employee, or any other chartered accountant in practice. Okay. Now, unless these are examined by these people, by him, partner, employee, his employee, or other chartered accountant in practice, if he certifies or submits his name on that report of examination, then he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. So now when I say other CA in practice, means this is applicable in case of joint examination or joint audits. He might perform, in a case of a joint examination or joint audit, he might perform certain area is performed by certain other chartered accountant in practice, and they both together issue a whole report on financial statement. So if that is the case, that is fine, because other chartered accountant in practice can be a part of this arrangement. Okay, I hope it is clear. Yeah, any further doubts? Any doubts on this particular area? Okay, then if no doubts, then we can move forward. No? Okay, let me move forward. Clause 3. Now, clause 3 talks about when a chartered accountant in practice permits his name, okay, or his firm's name to be used with, permits his name or his firm name to be used with any estimate of earnings. So, permits his name or slash firm's name, okay, used with you can say n, used with an estimate of earnings which are contingent upon future or future transactions. Okay, if these are contingent upon future transactions, and if my name is used, my firm's name is used with such estimate of earnings, and it is leading us to believe, or it is leading people to believe that these estimate or these forecast or are correct, or it's leading to believe that I vouch for this particular forecast. Okay, means, okay, there was a forecast, there was a projected financial statement. Now my name is used in such a way with such estimate of earnings of such forecast which are contingent upon future transactions because they are projected. If my name is used in such a way that it is appearing that okay, I have vouched for this particular forecast, and I am saying that okay, these are correct, these are accurate, I have vouched for the forecast accuracy, okay, then he will be held guilty for professional misconduct. So there is a guidance note, whole guidance note given on there's a whole guidance note given in case of a report on profit or forecast which was issued earlier. Then there was another guidance note on report in company prospectus, which was issued in, I think it was revised in 2019. So there's the guidance note given on company's prospectus, where we need to follow the guidance note if we are signing on certain, if we are issuing any assurance, or if we are following any of the engagement which is related to the company prospectus. And there is also a guidance note on accountant's report on profit forecast or financial forecast. So these guidance notes are required to be followed, and on the basis of that only engagement on a verifying estimate of earnings or forecast is required to be taken. I hope it's clear. So there is also a standard which talks about the examination of prospective financial information which is required to be followed. So there is you can say there are a lot of guidelines available, guidance note and provisions available with related to this particular area that are required to be followed. You cannot directly just allow someone to use your name or your name for the accuracy of the forecast. I hope it is clear. Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. There was one of the case wherein like a chartered accountant issued a projected statement for an individual without verifying his basic documents for the purpose of loan. Now afterwards, when the loan became NPA, the person was not paying the loan. The bank identified and investigated and identified, okay, he was not having any income since day one. Then how the projected financial statement were issued by a chartered accountant? And hence he was held guilty of professional misconduct under clause 3, 7, 8 of first schedule or part 1 of second schedule. Okay. Okay. Then let me move to the clause 4 for today. What clause 4 talks about? Okay. Clause 4 talks about, expressing his opinion on the financial statement of any business or enterprise, where the chartered accountant in practice or a member in practice or his partner has a substantial interest. Okay. So first is expressing opinion, okay, on financial statement. Now, on financial statement of any business or enterprise in which there is a substantial interest, of member himself or any of the partner of firm. Okay. If I'm expressing an opinion on a financial statement where I have a substantial interest, either myself or through my partner, then I will be held guilty for professional misconduct. When I say substantial interest means more than 20% of voting right. Okay. Voting power, voting right, anytime during the year, not a particular closing, anytime during the year, together with me and with my partner, or is standalone basis, or directly or indirectly, if I'm having 20% more than, like, not less than 20%, means 20% or more of voting power, then it's a substantial interest. Or you can say 20% of portion or share of the profit. Now, when I say financial statement means would cover both reports and certificates given usually after examination of accounts. Okay. So if I'm expressing opinion on a financial statement, it's not only the general purpose financial statement, but can be, financial statement under statutory enactment for the purpose of income tax. So this financial statement will cover my general purpose also, general purpose financial statement, statutory certificates, if any, income tax assessments. Okay. So this will cover multiple areas, not only the general purpose financial statement that we have, balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, not that one, but other things also. Okay. Now, I'm talking about member in practice over here. Okay. So this will not apply to a member in employment where I have prepared something for my employer. If I have prepared, let's say, for example, I'm in internal audit, and if I have prepared something for my company or for my employer, then if I am expressing an opinion, that is fine, because that's a part of my employment. That is purely within the scope that is there. Okay. Now, for the directors, okay, where the member was a director, so there is a detail given, like in case of a directorship, there is a cooling period. Okay, so the cooling period is that we shall not accept any audit of assignment of audit shall shall not accept assignment of audit for a period of 2 years, for a period of 2 years from date of completion of tenure as director. Okay. In case of directorship, this is the case of directorship. Now, in case of a directorship, let's say a chartered accountant was a director, not a whole-time or managing director, but a director. Now, if he was a director in a company, okay, and he ceases to be a director. So till what time he cannot accept the assignment? Now he needs to make sure that for the period of 2 years from the date of completion of tenure, he cannot become a director. Let's say I'm talking about Mr. A over here. Okay. Period of directorship. Now he started directorship here, started, ended. Now I need to count 2 years from this particular end date to here, and during this period I cannot accept auditor or audit assignment of that particular company. For this particular 2 years, I cannot accept any audit assignment of this particular company. I hope it's clear. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Guys, please ask doubt, whether it's silly or it's, doesn't matter, because it will enhance your clarity. It will provide you, the understanding that is required for this particular topic. And also share your feedback. Reason because your feedback is important for us, and it is, it will help us understand what additional information, where you need more details, what things you need more to understand these topics. So it will really help to us. So please provide your feedback in the app, on the platform over here. It is very helpful for us. Okay. So yeah, so there are other provisions also applicable where the member also interested. So in those cases, even the Companies Act provision disallows a person, or disqualifies a member from being an auditor of the company. So we need to see simultaneously the provisions of the Companies Act, let's say section 141, and we need to see other, let's say if it's not a company audit, it's some other audit, then that particular relevant provision of that particular relevant act. Okay. So this was a bit about clause 4. Okay. Any doubt till now, guys? Any doubt? So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking up the questions of this part 1. Once I'll complete all the clause and all the clauses of part 1, and then we'll take the questions, like practical questions at one time. Okay. Clause 5. Now clause 5, clause 6, and like 7 that we will be discussing, they are related to like failure to disclosure, failure to report. So I'll explain you in detail. Just a minute. Clause 5, clause 6, clause 7. I'll be taking these clauses together. Reason because it will provide you more clarity. Okay. what we are talking about in which scenario? And clause 8. Okay. Clause 5 talks about fails to disclose material fact. Okay. Now here we are talking about, just a minute. Sorry for the technical glitch. Just a minute. Sorry. Okay. Clause 5 talks about fails to disclose a material fact. Okay, so here are two things we are talking about: disclosure and material fact that is missing, the disclosure for which is missing. So here, fail to disclose a material fact which was necessary. Now, this was necessary in making such financial statement. Okay, necessary for financial statement, or in making of such financial statement where he was concerned with that financial statement in professional capacity, means he was involved, let's say, in audit of financial statement or any assignment for the insurance assurance engagement on that financial statement. Let's say, for example, I am a person, Mr. X. Okay, I pick up a random financial statement which is published by a listed company. I go through and I identify, oh, there is a material fact which is not disclosed. And if I do not report, then will I be liable for professional misconduct under clause 5? Answer is no. Reason, because I should be involved, or I should be concerned with that financial statement in professional capacity. It is not like that, okay, I'm not concerned with that financial statement in professional capacity. It's not something I'm involved in on that particular engagement. I need to report. So I should be involved in that financial statement as in professional capacity. Then only this will make sense. So when I say financial statements, financial statement will include both report and certificate. It's not the general purpose financial statement we are talking about. This will include my reports plus my general purpose financial statements, or any other documentation where I'm performing examination. Clear? Pretty simple, nothing difficult. So I'm failing to disclose a material fact over here which is necessary for the financial statement. Okay. Now clause 6. Now when I talk about clause 6, it talks about fails to report a material misstatement. Okay, material misstatement which was known to me in a financial statement where I was concerned as a in my professional capacity. So two things again. One, reporting is missing over here, and it's a material misstatement. Okay. Now, guys, there can be an item which is not a misstatement, but a disclosure was not given, and it was a necessary for the financial statement. Let's say, for example, in case of a revenue recognition, okay, like there was some important disclosure that there was supposed to be given as per the accounting standard, NDS, but it was not given, or there are some guidelines or requirement of Schedule 3 that is material. Okay, it's a material fact that is required to be disclosed as per Schedule 3, but the disclosure was not given. It is not a misstatement, but missing disclosure of a material fact. Okay. Now, on the other hand, 6 talks about reporting of a failure of reporting of a material misstatement. Okay. So there is a difference between both. I hope you understand. There's a difference between both. One I'm talking about disclosure point of view, one I'm talking about reporting point of view. Now, reporting of material misstatement can be in my audit report, but disclosure of material facts will be in financial statement. I hope you are getting the point. Difference between both of them. Any doubts till now for clause 5 and 6? And when I say material, you need to apply the concept of materiality. Okay. And when I'm saying material means you need to apply the concept of materiality over here. There's a standard altogether on materiality. Okay. Now, when I talk about clause 7 talks about that, okay, does member in practice has not exercised, just a minute, member in practice has not exercised what? Due diligence. Okay. Or he's grossly negligent in either he has not exercised due diligence, or he's grossly negligent in conducting his professional duties. If I am grossly negligent or I am not exercising due diligence in my conducting my professional duties, then I will be held guilty as per the clause 7. It may happen that when I fail to report a material misstatement, or when I fail to disclose a material fact known to me, I may be, not exercising due diligence, I may be gross negligent. So clause 6, 7 or 5 or 7 can work hand in hand. It may happen that I'm grossly negligent also, and I'm failing to disclose or failing to report also. I hope it is clear. Pretty simple. Okay, any doubt till now? Six talks about fail to report material misstatement. There is an error or there is a misstatement in financial statement which I'm not reporting, and it's a material. So I'm not reporting in my audit report. Okay, that's a clause 6. I hope Mahendra, it is clear. Okay. Now clause 8. Clause 8 talks about, fails to obtain sufficient information. It is on a different line, but it talks about fails to obtain sufficient information. Now, why this information was required? This information was required or was necessary for expression of opinion. Okay, this information was necessary for my expression of opinion. Or you can say that, okay, fails to obtain, or you can say that I have taken some exceptions. Or has taken exceptions. Okay, I have taken some exceptions. Those are material. Those are material in nature, which negate the expression I am giving, the expression which I am providing, which negate the expression of opinion. Now, what would be an example in the current cases? For example, let's say I am performing the physical verification of inventory. Okay, I am giving an opinion. Okay, I have performed the physical verification, inventory exists. So expression of opinion on physical existence of inventory. This is a particular assignment for me. However, what I did is I did not perform the physical verification, and I said subject to physical verification. Subject to physical verification, the inventory exists. Means the core thing for the assignment was to perform the physical verification, and I did not provide the physical. I did not perform the physical verification. I performed some alternate procedures. Okay, I performed some alternate procedures. I did not perform physical verification, or you can say I performed the physical verification, but I forgot to check completeness of the inventory records. I forgot to check the completeness of inventory record. So, for example, a list was given. I was supposed to check the physical verification. I did on sample basis, but I forgot to tally the total inventory amount with the financial statement, which was there to report. So I was supposed to issue a opinion on the 1 crore rupees of inventory, but the list of the inventory which was given to me, I was not sure whether this is of 1 crore or not. It can happen. It is only of 10 lakhs. So either I have taken some of the exceptions which are, negating my opinion. This is the first case. Okay, this exception negates my opinion, or in this case, I'm failing to obtain information. I hope it is clear. Any doubt till now? Any doubt, guys? Any doubt till now? So this is the difference between my clause 5, 6, 7, and 8. 5, fails to disclose material facts. 6, fail to report a material misstatement. 7, no due diligence or grossly negligent. 8, fails to obtain sufficient information or has taken exceptions. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Guys, the more you will ask, the more you will learn. Okay. Also, please provide your feedback. And in the next lecture, what I will be doing is I will be continuing this topic for the rest of the clauses, and then we will be starting the company audit, where we will be covering the amendments of Schedule 3 and the other amendments. Okay, let's say Caro. So in the next lecture, what I will be doing is first continuing this topic for the rest of the clauses. Please read that. Second, company audit. Also read the amendments of the Schedule 3 and rest of the company's audit, company sector amendment that we will be discussing. So I'll suggest be ready for that particular. Be ready with reading. That will really help you in understanding the concept, or you'll get a good clarity. And our next class will be now directly on Monday. So there will be no class till Monday, and our next class will be directly on Monday, which will be just a minute, which will be 21st of March. Okay. So till that you will have a sufficient time, revise this topic, go through it again. Okay. And if any doubt, you can ask me in the next lecture. Also read for the next lecture. Okay. Okay, then guys, we'll stop this lecture at this moment, and yep. Thank you for being participating in this lecture, and thank you for listening. Thank you, guys.
Nisarg, Nisarg,